And again, I'd like to welcome you all to this Tuesday's 1:30 p.m. session, which will be covering apps for news. And again, thank you all so much for coming on to today's session. I'm going to read our disclaimer before we get started. The WildTech DC Senior iPad program, its owners and presenters offer technical assistance, virtual help, well-being information designed for educational purposes only. You should not rely on the information in any applications or topics made by WildTech, including but not limited to mobile device applications and any social media pages maintained by WildTech, its owners or presenters as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, or legal advice. Thank you so much for letting me read the disclaimer. If you cannot see me or hear me or see the screen, please let me know in the chat and I would really appreciate that. The first thing we're going to go over today is how to raise our hands. So to have some kind of etiquette and organization, I just ask that you raise your hand in Zoom if you have a question, comment, concern, reaction, etc. So again, during or at the end of each session, or both, you'll have the opportunity to again ask questions, comments, reactions, anything you like using this feature. You do that by tapping more at the top right of Zoom. Okay, so let's all make sure we're in Zoom, and then you hit raise hand. So I want everyone in Zoom to please raise their hand. So I know that you're here, ready, present, ready to learn, that you know how to ask a question, you feel confident and empowered, and ready to do so because we all have great questions that we all learn from. So let's again all raise our hands in Zoom. We have about 30 folks on, so I can see a lot of hands. And again, if you ever have a question, that gives yourself and everyone the chance to be able to ask their question and basically be acknowledged as well. Okay, so thank you. We have 15 hands up. Thank you, Ms. Dina, number 15. Appreciate that. And then you all can lower your hands by hitting lower at the bottom. Again, it says your hand is raised and it says lower. So for those that did not raise their hands, again, you tap more, then raise hand if you ever have a question, but you can hit lower at the bottom. So again, it might say your hand is raised and then it'll say lower. So make sure you tap lower to lower your hand. Thank you all. That was so fast. Appreciate that. In addition to raising your hand, there are these little reactions that you can share, as a reaction. If you want to send some claps or maybe a thumbs up or a heart or, a celebratory one. Just like before what I was just saying, I'm going to go to more. And I'm gonna hit these three dots right here so I can choose some more reactions if I wanted. And then if I go to the food section, I'm gonna send a strawberry as a reaction. So you can see all the reactions in the participants list. So I see we have a thumbs up somewhere. Thank you, Geraldine. And I saw a heart earlier, didn't know who that was, because as you can see, they only show up for a few seconds, I think about 15 seconds or so. But yes, utilize the reactions as well. And last but certainly not least, what you want to do is you want to use the chat. The chat is a great way to share something non-verbally, like a greeting, like a hello, good afternoon, happy Tuesday, hope you have a great day, etc. Right? You can put your question in the chat. I do my best, or the presenter does their best to check out the chat as well. So you can ask your question there. You can send your congratulations or encouragement or resources, information, prayer, anything you like to share in the chat. I mean, it's always nice to share some positive thoughts, right? So again, I want everyone in Zoom to use the chat, or test it out just by sharing anything that you like. You do that by going to more in Zoom, okay? So again, I want everyone to follow along. Everyone hit more, and then you need to hit chat. On your end, the chat will be the very first box that comes up, okay? So you're gonna hit chat. And here it says at the bottom, it says tap here to chat or tap a message to reply. So you have to tap in that area for the keyboard to come up and you see the cursor. So once the keyboard comes up, all you do is type your message in. So I'm gonna write hello. This time I'll write happy Tuesday. Right? I'm gonna write that, and then well, it actually said it was raining right now. I don't know if you I am unable to see the weather outside right now, like physically. So I don't know if it's raining over there or wherever you all are at. So Yes. Happy to. I'm still gonna put some sunshine though. I mean, it was a beautiful day today. So here, some rain. You know, rain's not bad. I love me some rain. You know, fresh smells really great. And um, you know, you gotta take the rain, get, you know, the plants getting what they need. So it's everything's relative. So yes. Hello, cloudy day. Thank you, Dolores. Very that's very lovely. Appreciate that so much. Hello, hello, yes, send love. And you know, again, like I say, just by sending these chats, thank you to those that have done already. It just makes you feel just a little bit better, right? You know, even if I'm having a great day, but just by reading these chats, it even makes me feel even more happy, right? So hopefully it has the same effect on you all as well. But yes, utilize the chat to see what your other participants are saying or sharing, and also to then ask your question, say your hellos, your greetings, your goodbyes, whatever you like, you can share in the chat. Yeah, it's liquid sunshine. That's a good way to think about it, Yvonne. I'll let my friend know that, and she'll probably be really amused because she loves the rain. You can hit the plus sign here in Zoom, and even hit photo if you want to add a photo of anything in your Photos app. So this is one of the paintings that I actually talked about last. I did that last Thursday. Yep, this app. I downloaded this image, and I just shared it with you all as well in the chat. Thank you, Miss Laverne. Again, if you notice, it says Laverne Anthony to everyone. So you do not have to put your name in the chat. We see that it's from you, Miss Laverne. So just a tip, and it makes it easier on yourself as well. So again, we know that it's you, but we appreciate that. So yes, let's all have a great Tuesday, and I appreciate all of the chats that you all had sent out. So thank you. Continue to utilize the chat, not just during today's session, but any Zoom that you attend. Okay. Thank you all so much. And today we'll be covering, you know, again, I always love to give some history and some context of what we'll be talking about. So, because we'll be covering app for news today, we'll be looking at some history of the news. And we'll have our app introductions and tutorials. So today we'll be covering Apple News and Google News to see if, you know, what differences they may have, but what they have to offer essentially. And last but certainly not least, we'll have our overview and discussion. Well, we'll be talking about how these apps can improve our daily lives, but also have some questions for you all to answer as well. So I hope you stay to the end, and I would love your response to the question, but any questions that you may have as a result of viewing this session today, I would love to answer at the end. But let's go ahead and get started, right? So first up, history of the news, from newspapers to online articles. How did we get from paper to digital? So this video right here kind of talks about how that came to be, starting from the beginning. When did the news start, and what is it like now? So I hope you all enjoy, you know, write down some facts or some new things that you learn, and we can certainly discuss it at the end, and even in a little bit with this mini exercise we'll be doing after the video. Okay, so I hope you all enjoy.
Let's face it, we all have news cycle fatigue. If it's not struggling to find reliable sources online, then it's figuring out how to sift through the myriad of competing and sometimes conflicting headlines that roll across our TV screens, cell phones, and social media accounts. But when did the news, in all of these varied and sundry forms, become integral to our lives? And why do we even follow it? Survival, desire to help and empathize, staying informed, entertainment. Our answers will vary from story to story, but one thing is certain. We live in a culture in which the news has become almost impossible to ignore. So today, I'm giving you guys
Just having some technical difficulties, you all. Thank you for your patience. Again, thank you for your patience, everyone. My video.
I'm giving you guys the inside scoop on the history of the news. We'll talk about when and how letting the public know what has been happening domestically and globally became an international phenomenon. In his book, Mitchell Stevens defines news as new information about a subject of some public interest that's shared with some portion of the public. Stevens also provides a useful chronology of how the news came to be. Since humans have existed, they've wanted to share their news. We might imagine cavemen grunting and signaling furiously to warn of an imminent attack, smoke signals, or stories of Greek messengers running to tell about military victories, speakers ascending to the platform at the Roman Forum to present political edicts, and West African griots who shared news and oral traditions within their own communities. Eventually, oral reports evolved into written ones. Julius Caesar ordered the daily records of Senate proceedings, or acta, to be posted in public. Some upper-class Romans even got their own handwritten copies to read at home. However, it was the Chinese Han Dynasty and not the Romans who, according to legend, invented paper in 105 CE. By the time of the Tang Dynasty, which began in 618 CE, Ti-Pao, or official newsletters, were distributed widely among the elites. With the invention of block printing, it became possible to quickly create multiple copies of these Ti-Paos. At the start of the 11th century, a Chinese artisan named Pi Sheng even developed a way to use movable type to make prints. However, this invention wasn't terribly practical for a language that relied on so many discrete characters. That being said, the idea didn't go away. In the 13th century, the Koreans made the first movable type blocks out of metal. Around 1439, the German goldsmith Johann Gutenberg developed his own version of a movable type-based press system. By 1450, his letterpress made it possible to mass-produce books, pamphlets, and other materials. Gutenberg's invention ushered in a new era of mass communication and helped expand literacy throughout the continent. Common people no longer depended on a town crier or a single page posted in town to learn what was going on locally. They also were able to find out about events in other parts of the world. Access to news had skyrocketed, but of course, the circulation of new ideas often threatens those in power, and new modes of communication lead to new kinds of censorship. In Renaissance Spain, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella required all printed materials to be licensed and approved in advance by government or church authorities. And in the 16th century, the English monarchy also regulated printed works to be licensed. In France, from the mid-16th century through the French Revolution, circulating defamatory pamphlets could be punishable by death. Despite these laws, the appetite for news remained strong, but so did the desire to make a profit from publishing it. This brings us to the birth of the newspaper. Stevens explains that most scholars agree that newspapers must first be available to a sizable portion of the public, second, be published regularly and frequently, third, contain multiple stories in each issue, and fourth, have a consistent and recognizable title or format. The Venetian Gazette was a precursor to the modern newspaper. During the 16th century, Venice was an important center of commerce and a place in which information was exchanged between Europe and the Ottoman Empire. Since a sheet of handwritten news sold for a gazzetta, a Venetian coin of little value, these papers became known as a Gazzetta della Navita, a half-penny's worth of news. The French termed this the Gazette. The Venetian Gazette fit all the characteristics that I just listed except for one. Its circulation was limited by an odd anachronism. These gazettes were still being written by hand. It wasn't until the 17th century in Germany that printing the news for mass consumption began. The two oldest examples of printed European newspapers date from the same year, 1609. We might think of this as being a moment in which the public appetite for printed news really took off. The oldest surviving newspaper that was printed in the English language was a single-page collection of news items cribbed from foreign journals. It was called a Couranto, and it was published in Amsterdam in 1620. It was a sort of highlight reel of all the stories. The oldest surviving Couranto that was printed in England was published in 1621. It was called Courante, or News from Italy, Germany, Hungary, Spain, and France, and contained news items translated from German reports. Between 250 and 850 copies of each Couranto were printed in this series. The The circulation of printed materials was a powerful tool for swaying public opinions of those in power. But reporting the news was, and still is, a very dangerous business. So much so that for the remainder of the 17th century, English newspapers were heavily censored for reporting domestic news and largely stuck to commenting on foreign affairs. It wasn't until the Licensing Act expired in 1695 that it became possible for these papers to publish political arguments about debates within England. The British reading public suddenly had access to journals of opinion that were produced by people like Jonathan Swift and Daniel Defoe. According to Stevens, this began a tradition in the English press of presenting skillfully argued opinion pieces alongside business news, updates on scientific discoveries, and advertisements. In the 18th century, as the nuts and bolts of the printing business were being worked out, more theoretical questions were being asked related to the role of the press in nation building. This is particularly the case on the other side of the Atlantic. In the US, the concept of a free press was integral to a notion of national identity. In 1765, the British imposed the Stamp Act, which required printers to pay for a stamp on each piece of paper that they used. The protests ranged from non-compliance, heated printed arguments, and the printing of alternative images to the stamp. These protests made it difficult for the British to enforce the act, and it was eventually repealed. In The Creation of the Media, Paul Starr argues that laws promoting the free exchange of ideas have been integral to the development of the American news industry. For example, the Constitution protected rights to free expression, and the Bill of Rights mostly denied the federal government the authority to regulate the press. Around the same time, the US Postal Service, a centralized government agency, had the potential to provide the government a means of censoring the news, but largely didn't. It guaranteed postal privacy and subsidized the growth of independent newspapers by providing lower postal rates for their distribution. This also coincided with the development of new technologies that made news distribution faster. In 1810, a German printer named Friedrich Koenig started working on a printing press that was connected to a steam engine. A year later, he and a German engineer named Andreas Bauer designed a model that could make 1,100 impressions an hour. In 1843, American Richard Hoe created his rotary printing press, which could print millions of copies of a page in a day. And in the 1880s, German-American immigrant Ottmar Mergenthaler invented a machine that enabled a writer to type words on a keyboard that would be immediately set in molten metal. And in the 1880s, photographs began to appear in newspapers, and a picture's worth 1,000 words. Much as ways of printing the news were evolving, so were methods of getting those inside scoops out to eager readers. After Samuel Morse's public demonstration of the telegraph in 1844, newspapers began sending correspondents into the field. Soon it became clear that good reporting was not merely observation. Reportage required trained journalists who used what came to be known as the journalistic method, which Stevens defines as the pursuit of independently verifiable facts about current events through enterprise, observation, and investigation. By the start of the 20th century, new advancements in radio technology revolutionized the way that Americans receive news. The first American radio news program was broadcast on August 31st, 1920 by station 8MK in Detroit. Starr claims, relative to the press in the United States, American broadcasting was more centralized, more subject to government control, less diverse, and less open to ideological contention. The federal government had actually been regulating the airwaves since 1912, when the Radio Act gave the Department of Commerce the power to license radio transmitters. As more American radio stations emerged, disputes arose over the right to control various frequencies. But the transition from printed newspapers to 24-hour news went through a few evolutions in medium along the way. As an increasing number of Americans relied on radio news, particularly during the Great Depression, radio journalists adopted a new style to hold the attention of a listening audience. They kept the detached perspective of print journalists, but simplified their sentence structures and choices of words. This style carried over into another revolutionary medium, the newsreel. This was a short documentary film that contained news stories and was presented at cinemas between the 1910s to the 1960s. Newsreels adapted the detached perspective and simplified language of radio journalists. However, the new medium had a powerful advantage. It could use moving images not only to tell a story, but also to entertain theatergoers. This early combination of information and entertainment is familiar to those who watch television news today. In 1940, the first regularly scheduled television news broadcast was basically a simulcast of a radio show, Lowell Thomas's newscast for NBC. A year later, CBS offered 2 daily news programs on weekdays, all anchored by Richard Hubble. Over time, television news relied on images more heavily to give viewers the sense that they, too, were witnessing history as it unfolded. For decades, a few networks held the monopoly on both morning and evening news. But in 1980, Ted Turner launched the first 24-hour news operation, CNN, followed in the 1990s by competitors like Fox News, MSNBC, Al Jazeera, and this kinda new thing called home internet access and personal computers. With the explosion of the internet, many people now have unprecedented access to live news, either on their own devices or on public computers. And with this access, many people have become less reliant on professional journalism. We have more ways to participate in a story rather than to just watch it happen. We can voice our opinion, donate to causes, reach out to someone who's been directly affected. Furthermore, we can also broadcast our own versions of personal news that are often kind of trivial, like witnessing our special lunches or beholding our glorious offspring. Or we could upload eyewitness accounts of large-scale political events. Think of videos from rallies or big gatherings. People who aren't trained journalists actually produce a larger portion of what we consider news than ever before. So what does it mean to participate in the news cycle like this? Have we become more connected and more useful members of our society? Or might our non-stop exposure to news events cause compassion fatigue or indifference to the suffering of others? Worse yet, might we turn to the news as a form of entertainment if viewing the misfortunes of others simply reminds us that we are not, in fact, suffering in quite the same way? These are knotty questions that tie very closely into our understanding of what it means to be human and what it means to be a member of an increasingly interconnected global culture. Hey guys, thank you to everyone who's already joined us.
Thank you all so much for watching that video together. Again, it's really interesting to learn where things used to be and what folks had to do to then share that information with others. So now it's really nice to see that it's a much simpler thing to do nowadays. So again, just gather your thoughts for a second on the video. I am pulling my slides back up. But just on the video, just again, just take a second just to think about what you viewed, anything that stood out to you as well. Just try to think of that and how it, how much of an impact it made on you, especially if you saw maybe the first, whatever kind of articles come out, whether it be digitally or physically. Um, it's again, we come from a lot. So just keep that in mind. Again, thank you all for your patience. Anytime you have some technical difficulties, you just get through them as much as you can. Again, you can also share your thoughts in the chat as well, maybe on the video too, while my presentation loads up. Any thoughts, any reactions? I have an activity right here where you can also share as well if you want to do that. Again, thank you for your patience. Okay, let me share my screen. One second, you all. Thank you for your patience. Thank you. Yeah, and there you go. Thank you all so much for your patience, everybody. So after viewing the video, again, just seeing the history of where, from newspapers to online articles, I found this quote that was stated by Jane Yolen, the author of more than 400 books. So if you've heard of stories like the Devil's Arithmetic or Once There Was a Story, Not One Damsel in Distress, The Owl Moon, any of those books, she had actually written those as well. She had stated, read something of interest every day, something of interest to you, not to your teacher, your best friend, or minister, anyone, really. Comics count, so does poetry, or a biography of a rock star, or an instruction manual, or even the Bible. So again, she said, read something of interest every day, something of interest to you, not to, your teacher, best friend, anyone really. Comics count, so does poetry, a biography of a rock star, an instruction manual, the Bible, etc. So if you were thinking about the video you just watched and this quote, I just want to hear your thoughts. You agree, disagree, any reactions you like to this quote? Please raise your hand in Zoom, and I would love for you to share. We have Miss Elizabeth. Did you want to share your reaction to this quote? If you do, you can hit unmute in the middle. Anyone else would like to share their reactions
I
or
remember, I remember back in the 50s, the going to the movies and seeing the newsreels in the movies. And oh yeah, back in the 50s, and I was a teenager then. But in between the feature film or the cartoons, they would run newsreels of
Yes,
the
ma'am.
news of the day, or the news of the month, so to speak, right here in Washington, D.C. That's all I put that up for.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for that, Ms. Braxton. Thank you for sharing your experience. Really appreciate that. Again, any responses to the quote on your screen as a result of watching that video that we had just watched? We have Miss Thelma next, and then Miss Geraldine. Hi, Thelma. How are you?
How you doing, Alice? Yes, yeah, I believe what you say is to read something interesting every day. Something that interests you, because there's a lot inside of a book. That we think is not. But I love reading, and I read something every day, every morning and in the evening. And I try to read different things, but like I say, I read things that interest me. So I end up getting this book about Black people in the Bible. So I read it before, but like during this month, Black History for Us, I read it again, and I learned a whole lot, that we were not lost people for real. Real people, designated for the promised land and all.
Yeah, when you reread something, or when you read something again, especially after some time, you pick up on things you didn't before. So it's also, if you like what you're reading and you figure something new out, it's really exciting. So yes, I'm glad to hear of your experience, and you every morning and evening. That's really, I'm really glad to hear that, and you just keep on doing that, Miss Thelma. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Allison.
No problem, Miss Thelma. Thank you so much. Last up, before we move on to our apps, is Geraldine. Hi, Geraldine. How are you?
Hi. I just want to say that I read something every day, but what I really love reading is advice column, Carolyn Hacks. And I read that every day, and some other periodicals or newspapers that send articles through text. And I end up reading many of those, but I thoroughly enjoy Carolyn Hacks.
Oh, see, everyone likes something different, as long as it's interesting to you and that you enjoy it and it brings something into your life, values or information or something, then that's great. I'm really glad to hear that you do that. And every day, yes, it's really important just to read something every day, right? It could be anything, because when you read, you learn, right?
Right.
And thank you so much for sharing, Geraldine, and thank you for your participation. Thank you so much, you all, for sharing your responses to this quote. Again, I feel like it's very true. You know, read something every day. And, you know, it doesn't have to be traditional. Like I read news, I don't read a book every day, but I do read articles and, you know, different things online. I do a lot of reading on different topics that I like, you know, so it provides a lot, you know, information, you know, relaxation sometimes, you know, just reading at the end of a long day can, you know, feel really fulfilling and such. So I hope you all, you know, take something from this, the quote today. So, yeah. Now we'll be going straight into our apps. So we'll be covering Apple News. Again, Apple News is an app that's pre-installed on your iPad. So everyone should have Apple News on their iPads. But Google News, again, it's an app from Google. So you're gonna have to download that app, right? So this is, so again, we're covering the navigation, the information, and basically just how to use these apps, you know, to take advantage of their different services. So first up is the Apple News app. So it has news and magazines. Apple News introduces you to the world's best journalism, trusted sources. It's curated by editors and personalized by you. If you would like to, you can also take advantage of an Apple News Plus subscription, which is about $9.99 a month, allows you to access magazines and premium newspapers. So of course, there's, you know, the majority of the news on there are, you know, free to utilize, but some magazines and premium newspapers do require that subscription. So just keep that in mind. I personally, you know, I used to have a News Plus subscription and it was nice. But it's not the end of the world if you do not have it because a lot of publications are just readily available to explore. Okay. Some top features include there's top stories, local news, there's an in-depth sports coverage there as well. And you can find articles from the Washington Post, from NBC News, USA Today, etc. So again, different very popular publications that are on there that you can take advantage of. So we'll be covering the app and, you know, just discovering, you know, some of the different parts that are there. So when you open up the Apple News app, this is what your app will typically look like. You have, again, the navigation button. So if you tap on that icon that looks like a square, you see where that arrow is pointing at everyone. That's how you can either open this bar right here, or you can close it so you can minimize it, right? So, so yes, that's the navigation button. On the left-hand side, again, right below, you have the search button. So you can simply search for articles by topic, author, publication, etc. You have your today section right here. So we're just, again, going down this column. You can view your top stories, articles for you. Of course, there's the new News Plus button that requires a subscription. And you have these different options here, shared with you, save stories, and history button. So those are pretty self-explanatory. If you want to see what articles were shared with you, or your saved stories, or the history of your viewed stories, you hit those different options. So if I go onto Zoom and go to my Apple News app, there you go. So I'm sharing my screen. Again, the Apple's News app, it should appear, you know, in the first screen of your iPads. You all, again, this is one of Apple's iPads apps. So you're going to open the News app. Okay. So I was actually just reading an article in the News app just before we started today, but same idea. On the left-hand side, you have the navigation button. So look, you can either open it or close it, right? If you just want to see more of the article and such, okay? You have the search. So look, you can search for anything really. Like if I typed in cooking and I hit search, look at that. Different stories. There's a publication right here at the top. There's the different channels that you can, add if you want. But yeah, the search bar, you can type in anything and those things will come up. So like sports, look at that, sports, top results, stories, channels, etc. Science, if you like science, right? If I just type in science, look at that, different science stories, right? So you could be really, really specific if you want to. The today section is what appears today, so top stories, as you can see. Conversation starters, there's a for you page. There's the sports page right here, etc. If you keep going down, there are just many different sections here. So there are many different articles. The ones that have News Plus next to them, of course, that requires a News Plus subscription. So this one right here says how a small Iowa newspaper's website became, etc. That's a News Plus article. So I cannot open that unless I have a News Plus subscription. Yeah, you keep looking through, you see there are just more and more and more things to take advantage of. News Plus. Same thing, you need a News Plus subscription in order to take advantage of these articles that appear. Yeah, unlock everything, Apple News Plus, if you want the Wall Street Journal people, the Atlantic, etc. They're right here as well. So I see, actually, since I created that presentation, they actually did go good. It says $12.99 a month. So it's not $9.99 a month, it's $12.99 a month. Here on the left, again, some additional new ones that have appeared since are sports. So you can get specific sports news if you want. These puzzles, if you have a News Plus subscription, you can do the crossword or the mini crossword if you want. And then on the left here, again, are just pretty self-explanatory options. The ones that were shared with you. No one shared a story with me, so I don't have any. The saved stories, so which ones I have saved for later use, appear here. And you also have your history. So these are all of the articles that I have read, at whatever point, right? So it gives you a history. So that's the left-hand side right here with those different options. Thank you. So, yeah, so that's the left-hand side. So again, we're just going on this column, right? Just to go through the different options. Next up, we have the favorites. So you can view all of your favorite publications once you have them in one place through whole issues or articles. So I'm gonna go back to my news app, and if I hit my favorites, favorite it. So if I go to Essence, right? You see how I favorited that one, right? And I did that by hitting these three dots at the top right. And you see it says unfollow channel. So I hit follow channel to be able to add it to my favorites here. So again, whenever you see these three dots on pretty much any app, right? That typically means like a more option. So keep that in mind when you see it, okay? But these are all of your favorites. So I have these favorited right here as well. If I go down here, just looking through, again, there are some other options that I have not, spoken on, but they're pretty self-explanatory in that section. You have your local news, so you can experience your local news featuring publishers, showcasing politics, sports, dining, culture, and more. So on the left-hand side, if I go to my local news in the news app, yep, Washington, D.C. So I can look at all the DC news. So look, it says DC cherries blossoms will reach peak bloom 10 days early, we predict, right? So all of your local news can be found right here, right? Again, we're gonna just keep going on the left, your channels and topics. You can view different publications through whole issues or your spotlighted articles. So again, these you can add from here, from the suggested part. So it's kind of a two-parter. All of these different options, look, I can go to celebrities, or I can go to education, or I can go to USA Today. which I'm assuming is for Apple News Plus, but it's right here. Music, there's Bon Appetit, that's a publication. Food Network is a publication. So just look through all the different options that are available in the suggested side. So you see if there's anything that you like. Like I like fashion, and I like food, and I like entertainment, right? So I just hit the plus button here on the left-hand side to add them to your channels and topics. Okay, so again, we're still just on the left. We haven't gotten in an article yet, specifically, but we're just going through that different option, right? On the left. So yeah, you're suggested by Siri. If you have any topics that are suggested, you can add them by hitting the plus sign, or if you tap on them, you can hit the plus sign when you're inside of that publication or suggestion and hit the plus sign here at the top right. Last but certainly not least is the manage section. So if you hit notifications and email, you can choose what channels you want notifications and emails from. And then you also have your subscriptions option. So you can manage your Apple News subscription from that section. So again, if I go back to the left-hand side of the Apple News app, I hit manage. And look at this, it says notifications and email. So look, it says choose which channels send notifications to all of your devices. So anytime Vogue comes out with an article, or Time, or People, etc., I get a notification on my phone or device. So look at that. This one says USA Today. A total solar eclipse will captivate millions of Americans in April. Here's where to view it. So look, that's a notification from having that option on. And if I tap on it, look at that. It takes you straight to that article. Again, really easy to navigate once you get the hang of it. So that is the navigation bar. So again, we went over basically this left-hand side where you have the button, the search, and all of the different options that are on the left. So it's just all about taking a few minutes just to see which part of the news app that you really like if you want to take advantage of it, and what different options you have. That, I love learning more about, even looking here, I love learning more about tech, music, money, education, weather, Apple, finance. I like those a lot. So I want to be informed and read more of those articles regarding that. So does anybody have any questions or any questions on the navigation bar in Apple News? You can raise your hand or put it in the chat as well. But any questions about the navigation bar? Again, just using the left-hand side is key to navigating between the different sections in the Apple News app. How do you send an article? That's a great question, Yvonne. We're going to go over that in just a second. So if anyone has any questions about this navigation bar, please save them until the end. So when you're in an actual article, there are some different options that you can utilize. So if I go here, I'm here at this page. One, you can, if you want to save the story, you see this kind of bookmark looking icon right here next to this little arrow. It literally looks like a bookmark, right? That is how you save that article. If you hit the, if you look over here at the top right, you should have an AA. You can change the text size, either smaller or larger. If you hit these three dots, it's again kind of like the more button. Look at that. The first option, share story. If you want to share with others, you hit share story. If you want to copy the link, you can do that as well. You can save it from here. You can give it thumbs up or thumbs down. You can report a concern about the article, etc. You can even follow the channel that the article comes from as well, or go to it. So this is the PC Mag article. So you'll go to the PC Mag channel with their different articles as well. So yeah, you can thumbs it up from or down from here, or if you look at the bottom left, you have your thumbs up, thumbs down, and you can also rate it from there as well. So if I go to this article right here, again, some things have changed a little bit since creating this session. So at the top, look at that, you have the thumbs up at the top and the thumbs down at the top now. So I'm gonna give this a thumbs up. You have this save or the bookmark option right here at the top right, the very first one. So I just saved this article. If I go to my saved articles or saved stories, look at that, it appears as the very first one, right? You can also, there's the share button right here too. That's something new. You can hit the share button and look, I can either send it as an iMessage or if you want, or an email. So look at that. If I want to send it an email, let's say I'm sending this to myself. Oops. And look at that. What's the best place to see April 2024? You have a little description and you have the article link as well. So it's very, very convenient. So yeah, so I'm gonna hit the send. And that's how you share an article with someone else. By mail, by iMessage, you can copy the link and put it wherever you want to as well. But that is how you pretty much navigate within the article. It's pretty simple once you're in there. Yep, text size appears here in these 3 dots. So look at that, I can make it either bigger or smaller. So the first button here at the top is smaller, the second one's bigger. So look at that, you can change it as much as you want or however you best see it, right? So yeah, this is pretty good. I like this. Well, I can make it a little smaller for me, but it just depends on what you're comfortable with. So yeah, that is the, oops, 1 second. Thank you all for your patience today with my screen sharing. Not sure what's going on, but we're just gonna get through it together. So yes, if I go back to my presentation, yep, we went through the navigation bar, we went through actually going inside of an article. And that's it, you know, once you're in an article, you can always go back out of it, look at new ones, get out of the app, etc. Okay, so that is Apple News. Google News. Well, while I go over Google News, please raise your hand in Zoom if you've taken advantage of Apple News before by opening a notification or just going inside of the app. Raise your hand if you want to use it, if you haven't done it before, or that you do use it and it's helpful in some way. I want you to raise your hand, okay? If you've used Apple News or if you would like to use Apple News, please raise your hand in Zoom. But other than that, Google News, again, I just wanted, you know, one source for anything is not a good thing. Even though Apple News is basically a conglomerate of different publications and such, is always good just to have another kind of perspective as well. So Google News is a personalized news collector that organizes and showcases what's happening in the world so you can discover more about the stories that matter to you. So with Google News, you'll find local news and articles, just like with Apple News, worldwide headlines, and there's a categorized newsstand. So if you think about like magazine newsstands in real life, you know, they have the stand with all the magazines. It's kind of the same premise as well. So that is Google News. If you want to download Google News, you know, with Apple News, I didn't particularly show it off because again, it comes on all of your devices already because it is an Apple app in a way, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen on my iPad and just show you why. You're gonna go to the App Store on your device. If you ever want to download an app, look at your app updates, etc. Right? You're gonna hit the search here at the bottom right of the App Store. Again, if you want to download an app, and in the bar at the top, you're gonna type in Google News, right? Yep, Google News, and it appears there at the very top right of the search. Google LLC, Google News. It has almost 230,000 ratings. Very popular. It's number 8 on the news apps of, you know, the whole App Store, which is again amazing as well. And you can see the reviews, so it's very highly reviewed. There's a lot of you know, great information to catch up on as well. So I use both. Just, you know, going into this, I use both apps because they have different stories, and you know, it's always good to get maybe a slightly different point of view on something. So that way you can make the best decision or best thought in your head, right? When you have more sources, you're more informed, so you can make a more informed decision, right? But yes, that is the Google News app. So you're gonna get it. So mine says open because I've already downloaded it, but you're gonna go ahead and hit get and download the app. So that way you can then utilize it, okay? So when you open the Google News app, this is what this is what your iPad will look like. It may ask, you will need a Google account in order to utilize the news, right? And it's pretty simple. If you do not have a Google account, if you do not have a Gmail, the steps will be there for you to create a Google account, which is again very, very easy. But once you do, this is what your screen will look like. You'll have your home page here on the left, and that way you could see, what's going on at an instant. So at the bottom is that navigation bar. So we'll be talking about that as well, just like with the Apple News bar. At the top left of the screen, if you all see my mouse, there is the magnifying glass. That is the search button. So you can search, again, just like with Apple News, you can search by topic, title, location, source, etc. If you notice on this one, it says 56 degrees. So you actually have a weather button that you can utilize. So you can view your local weather at an instant, even though we have the weather app, right? But it's there, And then the first button at the bottom left is the For You section. So this is where your top stories, your local news, stories for you, your interesting reads will appear. So if I, again, go into my iPad and I go to the Google News app, yeah, and I'm going to go to, well, you can go to the app, but I'm going to go back to the App Store and open it from there. This is what your Google News app will look like. So again, same way, same format, really easy. Once you're signed in and everything, you have the search button here at the top left if you want to search for anything. So again, cooking. Look at that, you have different topics, options. So look at that, sources, different articles, news. Look at all this information. And again, everything is, that we talked about besides Apple News Plus is free. So I just literally just being able to open these articles is really amazing. Wow. That one looks cool. 8 best co-op cooking games. I may have to look at that to see if there's one for iPad, right? But look, cooking, if I hit the search button, I can hit sports. And look at all these sports articles, right? So yes, that's the search button. The weather, of course, it's 62 degrees right now, and it looks like, it might rain. It actually, again, I don't know if you all can see, but it says it's raining right now. It says it's about to stop in half an hour, which is nice. But yes, that's the weather button. And then this is your For You section. So look, top stories, local news, picks for you, sources, New York Post, opinion. So there's just kind of a hodgepodge of everything, right? So look, they have everything from health to science to sports to gaming to celebrities, etc. So look at all this stuff. Like I'm still going down. So there is the For You page. Okay. So yes, we're going through the different options. So that's the For You. Next up is headlines at the bottom. So you can view the hottest articles through different filters. And if you notice any option that says full coverage, you can dive deeper into a particular story with multiple perspectives, and it highlights coverage from different outlets and mediums. Okay, so if again I go back to my my app and I hit headlines at the bottom, I can look at different headlines based on the category. So look, I go back to my Google News app. Oops. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. And if I go to my Google News app, look at that. You have the headlines, and you can look at the latest headlines, right? And if you look at the top, look, US. So you can look at US news, right? And what I can say, some of it is not, you know, positive, right? You know, there is a lot going on in the world. So, you know, it's good to be aware, but uh good to just be able to look at all different things. So there's world, there's business. You can look at all the business headlines. Wow, Macy's is closing 150 stores. That's crazy, right? Stock market, yeah, all different kinds of articles in regards to business, technology, entertainment, sports, science, health. So there's a lot of different headlines that you can take advantage of. So if I go to sports, for example, right? I look through and look at that. It says full coverage of this story. So if you ever want to learn more about a particular story, so look, this says Bears GM doesn't rule out trading Justin Fields. So maybe I want to see all the you see this, the Atlantic, ESPN, CBS Sports, but let's say you just want to see more sources. You hit full coverage, and look at that. All of these articles are about and questions and coverage is all about that particular news story. So I think that's really neat just to look at the full coverage of something, right? So that is your headlines section. Okay, so you can look at different headlines across the world. You have your following section next. So again, we're just using the bar at the bottom to navigate on the app. So following, it adds topics, sources, and locations to see more stories related to them in the For You section. And you can view your saved searches and your stories as well. So again, this is kind of a, let's see, like, kind of a figuring out what you want actually in your app section. So it's good to see what is there. So if I go again to my Google News app and I hit following, so look at that. On my end, follow your interests. So again, this is pretty new itself. So what am I interested in? Choose topics that will appear in your For You newsfeed and under what you're following. So let's see. I like personal finance, music. I like physics, space, mobile. I like health, science, arts and design, maybe US. I like fashion, home, technology, gaming, food. I like all of these, right? Entertainment. So I'll choose those and then I hit done. So look at that. I can look at my following section, right? And see what I'm following. And that's pretty neat. So look, you can look at all of your recently followed, and I'm assuming if I hit this plus sign, you can search. Again, the search comes out where you can search for different things within your following section as well. So they actually kind of updated this section as well. So it's cool to see how they've updated. It's a lot seamless here as well. You have your library. Okay, so your local sources, safe searches, safe stories, etc. You have all these different options right here. So that is the following section. Okay, almost done. We also have the news stand. So look, you can view groups of publications by category. So again, very simple to look at because it's all right there. If you literally think of a newsstand, you're looking at all the different publications that are there and seeing which one you would like to download. Okay, so if I go to my newsstand right here and look at suggested sources, look at that news showcase. So The Guardian, Mississippi Mansion Global, Market Watch, look at that entertainment, look at all these different publications. Like I like variety and look at these different sections, film, TV, digital, video, right? I love Food Network. During the Valentine's Day party, I showcased a Food Network app as well. But look, Food Network, they have different articles. These are the videos. These are actually the videos that I watch not every day on YouTube, but I love these different videos. So it's not just articles that you can view in Google News or Apple News even. You can also view videos as well. Health and fitness, home and garden, science and tech, special interest. I mean, there is just a lot of news that you can look up and take advantage of here as well. Okay. So again, going back to our slides, when we go into an actual article, thank you for your patience, everyone. So let's go to an article. When you go into an article, there are some different buttons that are there, like the share button. Again, if you look at the top right of the screen on this picture, you have the share button. You have the more button. You see more options. At the bottom left, you have the refresh button, so you can reload the page if you want. And then if there are other articles in this section, you can browse through them using those different arrow keys that you see. So if I go to my Google News app, again, just go ahead and share my screen. And let's go into, let me go back to cooking, like my Food Network. Let me find an article. Let me see if there's an article. Well, let me not do Food Network. Let me do Turntable Kitchen. Never heard of that. And go into an article. So let's see. Really cool. Just looking at the titles, right? Best budget record players under $100 in 2023. Let's see what goes on. So when you tap on it, you see it opens up the article. And you just swipe through and just read it as if it was a regular web page, right? So it's really, really easy to open up these different articles. At the top right, you have the share button, so you can share that article with others. So you see this popped up on the left. When I hit the share, I hit the mail, and look, it puts that link in the email, and all I have to do is put whoever's email address that I want to send it to, right? So I'm gonna send it to myself. Yeah, Abel, I didn't finish typing it. That's why you're getting that error. Oops. Abel at wildtech.org. Return. Yeah, make sure it's blue. And then I'm going to hit send. And there, I just sent that email to others as well. So that's the share button. The more button, of course, you can save it for later. So that's your save stories. And at the bottom left, you'll see this little refresh button. So if you ever wanted to refresh the page for whatever reason, you can hit that as well. But that's, when you're inside of an article, I mean, it's just about really reading the article or saving it for later or sharing it with others. So there are many ways to share information. And just by using these two apps today that you guys learned, you can share articles and information with your friends, family, anybody else that would, like that info. So yes, thank you all for attending, today's 1:30 p.m. session on basically using these apps for news. Seeing what's, going on around us is, pretty important in some capacities. But what I can say is for the news, I wouldn't just solely look at that for information. You have to do your research. You have to, maybe Google something, find a book, just, for certain things. If you really want to be informed, it's good to look at different sources and publications. So just keep that in mind, okay? But yes, with the time left that we have today, of course, I have some questions for you all as well to answer. Sorry about that, you all. So what is one new fact that you learned today from the video, quote, or the apps that we went over? What is your favorite news outlet? What do you like? NBC, CBS, etc. What apps are you interested in trying out or that you have tried out or want to? So Apple News or Google News. And then just an open-ended question. Knowing current events is important because blank. So you can answer one or more of these or just share your general thoughts on today's presentation. And then we'll be ending with, of course, a poll at the end to let you guys share how you felt about today's session. But other than that, if you don't have any questions, you are free to go. But I recommend that you stay on to listen to others so that way you know, we all learn from each other, and they might think of something that you may have not. So, if you would like to answer one of these questions, or you have a question for me, or just any general reactions on today, please raise your hand in Zoom. Again, what is one new fact that you learned today? What is your favorite news outlet? What app or apps are you interested in trying out? And or knowing current events is important because blank. Okay, so any questions or any answers to these questions, please raise your hand in Zoom. Okay. Thank you. Hi, Dolores. How are you?
Hey, Alex, how you doing? I put a question in the app in your box to you in reference to what apps are interested in trying out. And I would like to know more about the Google account. Is that free or is there a fee for that as well?
No, everything that I discuss, unless there's a caveat like with a subscription or something, it's going to be free, Dolores. So every app that I talk about is going to be free just because, you know, it's just most accessible. I mean, I don't think folks would mind paying for $1 or $2 or something if anything was paid, but it's, you know, just for it to be most successful. Anything that I talk about, unless I mention a part of it does cost something, then it is free. So yes, you just need a Google account, so which you can create right in that app if you don't have one, to then access Google News. Okay.
No, I asked that question because you mentioned as far as the Apple News that you had to pay $12.99 a month. So
for News Plus. So again, for News Plus. So Apple News regularly, I mean, I don't have Apple News, but Plus, but as I saw, I was in the app and I was looking through what was free. So again, that app is free, but there are maybe parts to it that require a monthly subscription or whatever, require, you know, payment of some kind. So Apple News, again, is mostly free unless you want the subscription, but Google News is totally free as long as you have a Google account.
okay, so when I sometimes tap on the Apple News and then to read an article, and it might ask a question as far as, do you want to go on what is it, Google or Chrome or whatever. So when I type on one of them as far as Google and it open up, so that means that that account is free instead of paying having some kind of a payment. Like you said, I know you mentioned something about if it's a plus, but I do know that sometimes when I type on the Apple News, if I to read an article, then I guess it go to another step where it say, do I want to go on a Google or Chrome or whatever, and then I tap on.
I'm not sure why it does that for you, Dolores. When you know, it shouldn't unless you are trying to open it in Safari. If you open that option, but if I just go, like if I share my screen really quick, if I just go to our article, it should just open the article. I'm not sure if you're talking about a notification that you received, but even if you did receive a notification, like let me go to my notifications here. You see this one says people, right? So if I hit this article right here, you see what it does? It just takes me straight to the article as long as it's not a Apple News Plus. So you see it's right here. The article is loading up and then I could just read it. So you can just read it straight from Apple News. So it shouldn't ask you if you want to open it in Safari or Google unless I'm not sure of that. So it shouldn't ask
right,
you that.
Because I never experienced that when I be doing it. Never, just like what you just popped up, mine doesn't pop up like that. When I type on that, tap on that icon.
So it's not an icon, but it's just any. So if I'm in the Apple's News app, it doesn't matter which one I open. Like if I open this one, you see the article just opened. It didn't need anything. If I open this one, then you know, I just open it and I read through it and such. If I go down here and I open this one, it shouldn't make you go to another. If you're in Apple News, it shouldn't make you go to anywhere else because there's the app for it. So I would just try exploring the app again, Dolores, and just seeing, you know, the different sections and just trying to just open it just regularly. Okay.
I'll try, but that's not what I've been experiencing. Maybe I'll try and see what happens, but I never experienced just what came up for you.
When you see that, just tap anywhere and it shouldn't come up, but make sure you're tapping on the actual article. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem, Dolores. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Mm-hmm. Next up, if you 1 second, just to pull my questions back up. Thank you. Next up is Miss Shirley. Again, don't forget to lower your hand, Miss Dolores. Hi, Shirley. How are you?
Hey, Alex, how you doing? All right.
Mhm.
I'm kind of like a news buff. I like to look at MSNBC and CNN,
Mhm.
but on my phone I have like the new, the news things come up, and I, like to go to my phone and read from there also.
Mhm.
The different apps that come up, or even what's that? I think I get Google or Smart News, that come
Yeah,
up.
there are many. I have that app on my phone. So there are many different news apps that are available. It's just picking the ones that that you like.
And like you just did, like when you go to it on your phone, it open up and you just go on to read, or even from the Times. I don't know if it's the New York Times or just the regular Time. Yeah, they come up, and I, just like to just keep myself abreast of what's going on in the world.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just not too much, of
Yeah.
course. For me, I read some, but not everything, sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's important to stay informed and now with you attending, you can utilize some of these apps on your iPad so that way, you don't have to look at your phone the whole time. I look at news on my phone, on my iPad, even on my computer as well. So
Yes.
it's just I like the iPad because again, it's easy to see. It's visually really appealing and such. So I would, just try to check some of these apps out on your iPad. Okay, Miss Shirley.
Yes, because it's much bigger than my phone. Then, but say my eyes are failing me now. But okay, thank you. But like you said, the news sometimes get too depressing, and sometimes you got to take a break away from it.
Yes, but there are positive news. So if you want to look at news, look up the positive news, and
Oh,
and you'll be good.
okay.
Okay.
That's when I go play some games or something.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much,
All
Miss
right.
Shirley.
All right.
Have
Thank
a
you.
good day.
You
Hmm.
too.
Okay, thank you all so much for hey Yvonne, thank you for your question. I'm not sure. Let me see if I still have that open. No, I don't have that article open, Yvonne. But yes, you can there are many different kinds of articles and information there as well. So I would assume for that article, Miss Yvonne, that yes, they had what's the word for it? Affiliate links or just links to those different options that they provided. So yes, when you're reading articles, sometimes they may have links within them for you to access. So yes, that was a article on some of the best under $100 record players and such. So they will definitely have the links to those things as well. That's one way these publications or these folks get paid through them purchasing or customers or consumers, the readers purchasing those items that are being shown in the news article. So I hope you can find it and see if it's something interesting, or you can do a search for it. But other than that, thank you all so much for attending. I'm going to go ahead and stop our recording.